Chris Farrell of Judicial Watch says the Trump administration agreement reached with Guatemala to stem the tide of immigrants is at risk as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and members of the so-called Squad pay a visit there on the eve of what is expected to be a tight presidential runoff election.
Sandra Torres, the leftist or socialist candidate, is in a position where the arrival of Nancy Pelosi and the Squad, I think even in a very sort of generous interpretation, could be seen to have arrived on the scene to endorse her electoral prospects. That won't be lost on anyone, that the arrival of Pelosi and the Squad is sort of a hat tip, right? It's a tacit endorsement of that campaign.
A tacit endorsement of Torres, the left-leaning, some say socialist candidate for president, and a rejection of the Trump administration's safe third country agreement with Guatemala, whereby those seeking asylum must do so in the first safe country they travel to, including Guatemala, and therefore cannot pass through Mexico and into the U.S. to seek asylum. But the planned visit of the so-called Squad and Speaker Pelosi has not gone unnoticed, says Farrell.
And so there's a domestic Guatemalan political issue, complicated by the arrival of a congressional delegation, none of whom I believe have the interests of the Trump administration and the new agreement in their hearts. The Guatemalans, there's been a number of protests against Speaker Pelosi and her congressional delegation. Guatemalans see it as foreign election meddling.
And those protests were not just targeted at Pelosi and the Squad, but at the American ambassador in Guatemala, Luis Arriaga, whom Farrell says does not support President Trump's immigration agenda, nor the Trump administration's safe third country agreement with Guatemala.
But there's still active opposition against it, coming out of certain establishment political operatives in the State Department, but also our own ambassador, Luis Arriaga, in Guatemala City, who's a career establishment foreign service officer type, who has actively opposed Trump administration policies.
Farrell believes that the August 11th presidential runoff election will be close, but a victory by left-leaning candidate and former First Lady Sandy Torres could have dire consequences for the country. John Hines, One American News, Washington.